Hello everyone, welcome to Tea with TPS. Today we have two very distinguished Indian Americans on the show. One is Satish Korpe, who is active in democratic politics. The other, Sajith Menon, is a government official, but he takes a lot of interest in public policy and diplomacy. So we would talk to them about the situation in the United States at this time, and the elections are just exactly 30 days away. Today there have been several developments which we will talk about first. First of all, the debate that took place yesterday. The general assessment was nobody won, nobody failed, but America failed in that debate. So I'll start with that question to Satish. Do you accept that assessment that nobody won, nobody failed, but America as a nation failed on account of this debate? What do you think, Satish?
Not quite exactly, because there is a decorum to any debate of this gender, especially on the national level. And America is known for having a civil dialogue between opposing positions, even in Congress or wherever you go. They may belong to different parties, but they act very civilly, with civility with each other. And I think that was broken by one person, and he just went down, and there was no way to stop him than responding in the similar language. So I think the other person had to come down to his level to make him understand. And he was the spoiler. But I think it was Mr. Trump who was the spoiler. He should have maintained the decorum, the gentle civility of the debate, the platform, the podium that he's standing on in front of national and international audience, and he failed to do that. That's my assessment. And I think Biden kept his posture, whatever substantial. He probably had a lot of stuff to say, but it never came out as such, because the president kept interrupting him from behind. That's very bad manner. I mean, it doesn't happen on that level of debate. Another thing is, I believe Mr. Trump he didn't appear to be prepared for all this. Because when you have some questions, you have to have some preparation to say something in terms of policy and not in terms of blaming other people all the time. And that's been the way he had adopted. So it did not materialize in a very fruitful dialogue for people. So that's why this is not American. You can listen to the debates in Congress. I was very impressed when I heard first time, because I was used to hear Indian Parliament where they beat the shoes on their desk. Then the British Parliament is alike. I think they make noise. They interrupt their Prime Minister while he or she is speaking, and it does not generally happen very rarely in the U.S. Senate or U.S. Congress. So that's where the word came, the praise came, the America failed. America didn't fail, the president failed.
Okay. What do you say, Sajith? What is your assessment of the debate?
I can agree with Mr. Korpe's opinion on the debate. However, people expected Trump being who he is, and it was not very surprising for the public. Though Biden has pushed to another extent, calling names on Trump, which was unfortunate. So anyway, the Biden team was well prepared, thinking that how Trump will be managing the show. So Biden have played the cards strategically, and also have been very effective in conveying Trump's failures, as well as pushing his policies. So as you have mentioned, the debate was not based on a very highly statesman-like policy-based debate, but it went into a different direction, unfortunately. I think in many debates we can see that happening, but this debate, it was in the center. This was mostly.
They say it was not a debate at all, because even in a school children keep the time, they don't interrupt, and there are some basic rules that everybody follows. But
Yeah,
anyway,
that is.
but what I'm going to ask you is that after the debate, all the public opinion seems to favor Biden rather than Trump. Is that true? The percentage-wise, on each item of the debate, the percentages have gone up for Biden and it has gone down for Trump. Is that true?
It is true that, in fact, his popularity has increased, Biden's. And Biden knows that how Trump will be playing the cards in the debate. And Biden has been very careful, and strategically he played his cards. And he was able to convey Trump's failures as well as push his agendas and plans like healthcare plan, Biden plan. And also he was very confident, and he was not bullied or afraid, and he was talking to the people directly on the camera. So it was a great achievement for Biden. So it just really helped Biden.
He was comparatively better. That was the assessment.
We can say that. Yes, I agree with that.
Okay, Satish, we are talking on October 2nd, your time morning. And the latest news is that both President Trump as well as the First Lady have been infected with the coronavirus. This has major implications, not only for them personally, but also for the country, for the world. We do not know what the reality is. We do not know when we, present this program, what the situation would be. But as of now, how do you see this development? Is it going to affect the elections? Are the elections likely to be postponed? Will the next debate, which is supposed to be on 15th of October, that's likely to be postponed? So do you, as an American, worried about this particular development of the president getting infected?
Time-wise, chronologically, we still have almost 1 month for the election. So I'm not really worried about the election. It is bound by the Constitution. The debates are really a mutual understanding between the two parties, and there is a commission for National Debate Commission. They kind of intermediate and schedule these. So one debate may be cancelled, maybe they will not do the second, maybe they'll do the third one. But getting back to your question, if you want to know what this hierarchy is, then the vice president steps in immediately to take over, which is Mr. Pence. And he apparently has not indicated any of effect by, if he fails, then the third in line is the Speaker of the House, which is Nancy Pelosi. She will take over the charge if both of them they are not able to do their job. So that's the hierarchy. Then there are other people, I think, behind, but 3 is probably enough to start with. But I think he could be okay in 2 weeks. He may miss the second debate. And one more thing I want to follow up on your comment, that Biden was in Senate for almost 40 some years. He has a lot of experience in the government affairs, debating, discussing, reaching out to other people. So he's a seasoned politician, in a word, while Trump is a businessman. To make money and millions and billions, and then negotiating, that's what he touted about. I don't know much about his personal life and all that, but I think that's what his background. When he came to the primaries, he treated other people like other Republicans. There were 10 other Republicans. He treated them very badly. He would talk down to them on stage and bully them. That's the right word. And I think the Republicans bought that behavior because they were looking for a new perspective from business standpoint, that the politicians are enough, let's get a businessman in there. And I think he will deserve that. But later on, I think because of lack of experience and lack of proper counseling from his staff, I think he was not as successful that people thought, most of the people thought. One of the other drawbacks is he's like an executive. So executives are used to be a little bit more dictatorial because they have a vision for their company. Anybody thinks against, they're out. And that doesn't work in government, not in
politics.
These people come from different areas, yeah. So he fires people left and right, but I'll talk about it separately. As far as the elections, I don't think they will be postponed.
You were on the Clinton delegation to India when Clinton was president as a presidential delegate. So what was your experience like? It was a very historic visit that he made in 2000. So what was your impression? How much did you gain from it?
In fact, there is a correction I would like to make, Ambassador. I was part of Obama's delegation in 2010. It's not Clinton, so
sorry.
Yeah, presidential delegation. Yes. US was under economic distress due to financial meltdown that time in 2010, 2008, 2010 time frame. So objective of the presidential mission was more economics and business than anything related to foreign policy. Many business and banks were shut down in the US. So Obama administration would like to attract investments to US from India and other countries. However, on the defense side, it helped setting up a JV for Lockheed Martin and Tata to produce defense equipments, as well as we got agreements from the Indian corporates like Reliance, Metal Steel, to invest in the US. So we got around $5 billion in guarantee of investments.
I remember that visit was not very successful, Obama's first visit in 2010, because he had two ambitions. One, he thought that we would place the orders for the $10 billion worth of nuclear equipment. Secondly, he thought we would buy F-16s and F-18s. Both these did not work out. So Mr. Obama was not very happy after that visit. He wanted to reduce the level of unemployment in the United States. And this was crucial for him. So that is why from 2010 to 2014, India-US relations were not particularly good. There were no new initiatives because he was a bit offended by the fact that he did not get what he wanted when we came to India. Then it was later that he made a second visit, and that was when the situation improved. So now I remember that the 2010 visit was not as productive as we had expected it to be. That is true, right?
We can see it in a many varied angle perspectives, but on the business side, it really tremendous. It has boosted very tremendous confidence for the US businessmen in India, because we have many from the US corporates like GE, we have Pepsi, and they got to meet with the Indian government officials as well as the Indian industry, the CII, Socham. So president's delegation was first visited Mumbai, not Delhi. So it shows that we really need focus on business and bringing investments to US. So second is any other foreign policy, any government policies and discussions. However, with regards to this,
but you enjoyed the visit and you were able to witness it from very close quarters. That must have been a good experience.
It was a very good experience, how we move things and how we can get guarantees on investments and all the investments what we have we plan to execute has been executed, except what you have mentioned is about the billions of dollars on the nuclear reactors that is going to be setting up in India. However, the Indian government has provided the open bid, and it is up to the US companies to bid. And so it is not the negative side of the government or any government to do that. Whoever put a good bid proposals with the technology, of course,
on the nuclear issue, the problem was this liability act that we enacted. Therefore, not even a single piece of nuclear material has been sold to India. That is an old story. Anyway, let us not go into that. Turning to Satish, about your own background, I have three things here. One, that you have founded recently this media group in order to support Biden and Harris. The second is you are the president of the Indian group, Indian American Forum for Public Education, which I knew very well. I had lots of friends there. And the third was you were a candidate for the US Congress in 2014. All these are very significant landmarks in your career. You're not a full-time politician, I presume, but in Democratic Party, you have played an important role already. Can you tell us a little bit about your contribution?
Yeah, let's start from today and go back a little bit. The group you are mentioning is called Indian Americans for Biden Harris. I started in July of this year. It was Indian Americans for Biden. When Miss Harris came on ticket, it became Indian Americans for Biden Harris.
Right.
One of the reasons was to find an Indian American, not anything else, because we were always umbrella under Asian American, South Asian, South Asian, and so forth. So some people were not very thrilled with that idea. They wanted Indian identity. And the numbers have grown, like last 20 years, the Indian American numbers have grown tremendously in all fields, business, technology, public service, all over. They are scholarly students. So they want their own identity. And the purpose of this was to engage these people with their own identity into the Biden campaign, and that way bring in the conversation the name Indian Americans in the Biden campaign and the Democratic Party. So they should not blanket us under South Asian or Asian, because I may understand it personally. I don't feel any difference. But average Joe out there does not understand. They come from India, they say, oh, I'm not from Pakistan, or I'm not from Burma or Sri Lanka. I want Indian identity. And that got tremendous response. In 2 months, we have about 5,500 members in a private group. They are only admitted by permission, so by invitation. And it's not like open group, anybody clicks and become member. So that's a good success. And they're having good, healthy conversation about the campaign. Now, the second thing you asked me about
you call it a media group. Does it have any meaning?
Yes, it is on the Facebook and website, and people can invite their friends who are already members. We check their background, if they are engaged in any groups that can be disruptive to the conversation, because it's very easy for trolls to get into these groups. They call bot or troll, which are like automatically interrupting constantly the conversation with negative and false propaganda with memes. So we do that. And I think it's coming along very well. We did so far 3 events on Zoom, and we had politicians speaking there. We had ex-ambassador Mr. Richard Verma came in. Yesterday was the first ambassador of Indian origin, Mr. Vinay Kumar. He was in some country called Belize during Obama administration. And then there were others came in, and it was a very good conversation. Now going back to 2014, and of course, I've been member of the Democratic Business Council. I've been member of the local Democratic Party. I supported many local candidates from state level, state delegates, state senators, governors, congressmen. My senators are both Democrats, Senator Warner and Senator Tim Kaine. They are very pro-India in the sense they understand the U.S.-India relationship better than many of them. I participated in their trade delegation in 2008 and 2011. 2011 was Governor O'Malley of Maryland. He took a trade delegation to India. I was part of that. It was Governor Tim Kaine of Virginia. He took that. And I was always interested to promote trade with India or generate business for Indians. So going back to that part, and I'm a regular supporter of the Democratic Party. Going back to my campaign, it was the same issue. In 2014, our congressman retired, Mr. Jim Moran, and they gave us like 6 months to find another congressman. There were about 10 people in that race. There was a lieutenant governor of Virginia, former ambassador some country, I think in Europe, Mr. Bayer. There was a NAACP national coordinator. There was a city mayor. There were 3 state delegates. There were 2 state senators and public servants, all kind of people. I was like a novice, but I wanted to make sure the Indian American name comes in the conversation, and Indian Americans think that they have an identity somewhere. That was the problem, because average Joe out there is busy making life and making their money and looking after their children. And somehow, I'm sorry to say that, but people who come from India, they have this wrong perception that politics is a bad word. Politics means corruption. But that is not true here. It's all open. Everything has to be reported. All the contributions are reported to the Federal Election Commission. It's all open book. And at high level, things may happen somehow because the PACs are the political action committees. who raise money and independently advertise in the favor of some candidates. They don't have to really declare anything. That's another issue going on in front of the Supreme Court called Citizens United Group. They don't have to declare who gave them the money. They could be ABC Corporation gives them $1 billion. They don't have to declare. So that is a little bit undemocratic. But in general, things are very transparent. So that has to plus. If you don't get involved into the mainstream American life, like your neighborhood, you go to the PTA, Parent Teacher Association, be part of it, neighborhood association, homeowner association, city council, county delegates, state delegates, all that if you don't do, then how you expect the community to respond to you positively? You look like strangers. So that changed now over a period of 20 years. A lot of people are running local races. So they understand that these Indian Americans are really highly intellectual, honest people, and they are good citizens of this country. So the perception has changed now. That's the general purpose of 2014. Going back to our IAPE, which is Indian American Forum for Political Education. It's not public education, it's political education. It started about almost, I would say, 30 years ago. There were 15 state chapters. It was a national body. Gradually, some waned out, some were consumed by other local organizations, but we still have about 3 or 4 chapters very active. And one of the mission was to increase the awareness of the US political process within the minds of Indian Americans, to increase their participation in the political process. By knowledge comes participation. By participation comes clout. And that's what we were missing, because we are totally unaware of what goes on on the Capitol Hill, what goes on in the Richmond, our state capitals, what goes on at the county board of supervisors, where important decisions are made that affect us day-to-day, daily life. And people were staying away. Now they're getting involved, and we're going to run a very good seminar program next year, that every month or every other month we will have a guest speaker who is either a professor, political science, or a publicly elected official, or someone who is a strategist, all different kind of facets of politics.
Diplomats too.
And
I have been to some of those meetings. I've been invited to some of those meetings. Well,
I remember you came to Philadelphia for the NFI convention. You spoke as a keynote speaker. Yes, I remember that. I was there also, NFI, National Federation of Indian Associations.
But that was all years ago. Things have changed so much. How is the India caucus working? That was established during my time.
Yes, thank you. Thank you for your achievement and reaching out to all congressmen. Abdul started from the Congress, that is the House, and now there is a Senate caucus too, which is strong.
Also.
Actually, my Senator Warner, he's a co-chair of the U.S.-India Senate caucus. And the other one is from Texas, I believe, another congressman, he's a Republican. So they are very active and they understand the issues of India. They try to learn what's going on and how the mutual relationship can grow between US and India, because it's not like supporting a foreign government. It's making a mutual understanding, mutual deal between the two nations. And for example, I'll get to that point later on, but about the mutual trade relationship. But McDermott, Congressman McDermott was the first congressman from Washington, Seattle, Washington. The seat is taken by Pramila Jayapal now. He was the one who was part of the India Caucus founding members. So was Warner. And then the New Jersey Congressman Frank Pallone, he was there very much.
Is he still active? Frank Pallone is still active?
Yeah, very much so. Very New Jersey.
He's a congressman. He's still a congressman.
Yeah, he's still a congressman. He tried to run for primary president, but it's all time linked. There has to be a right time for everything.
He used to be another one from Ohio of India during the nuclear test, when everybody gave us up, deserted us. Frank Pallone stood alone in support of India.
Yeah, so very good. He's very supportive. And then Sherrod Brown from Ohio, I think he's also very,
but they were all shaking. At the time of the nuclear test, they were all shaking, and it was only Frank Pallone who stood firm at that time. Anyways, what are your impressions, Sajith, on the caucuses and the Indian community relations with the Congress? You have something to say?
Well, yeah, I was part of many of the discussions where the Indian community was involved. Even I know Mr. Korpe in that group of discussions. Indian community has emerged more than science and technology or medicine. There are so many candidates standing for elections in the Congress as well as in the Senate in the whole US. If you take it for any state, there you can see a couple of Indians waiting in the congressional ticket, standing for the ticket to win the elections. Even this year, and it happened the last 2 years ago. And I'm sure that the organization which is founded by Mr. Satish Korpe is really helping many Indians getting a education about political process in the US, and as well as to getting a confidence in standing for elections and how to campaign. So very soon, I'm sure the couple of years time, U.S. Congress will have at least maybe like 5 to 10% of the congressmen may be Indians, even or part Indians. Even Kamala Harris also got a very good support from Indian community when she was a DA, district attorney in San Francisco. That motivated for her to stand for elections as a senator, which she won the election. She became a senator for California. So it's all part of Indian Americans' involvement in the local political movements, and as well as supporting the candidates that who stand for more on favoring India. So moving forward, we can see more candidates of Indian descent in the U.S.
Okay,
elections.
we'll come to Kamala Harris. It's going to be an important part of our discussion.
Okay.
But before that, let me ask Mr. Korpe, Satish, what exactly is the role of the Indian community? How significant is it in this election? We have about 3 million, but we have only about 1.5 million voters, right? I don't know whether the figures are right. How much can they influence this election? That is very crucial, isn't it?
Yeah, you may be close on the statistics. You're pretty close. The thing is, it's a group of highly educated people, most of them. They are professionals. They are also very generally known as integral people with integrity, and they are honest, law-abiding citizens. They're not mostly criminals, but that's where they affect, and they raise a lot of money. For election, you need basically two things. You need the votes and you need the money to run a campaign in today's world.
Well,
Because
the economists call the Indian community the cash cows of the American politicians. Is it true?
Yeah, they can
the taxes we pay.
Right, not taxes, the campaign contribution.
Campaign contributions, yeah.
So that has a limited influence. But I think when you have to select a person on your cabinet or a secretary position or some other position, you look out in the community and you like to get best out of it, best people on your staff. And the Indian American community provides that on the large scale because most people are educated, they are also scholarly, they have background, their previous generation was educated, they realize the meaning of education, they realize the meaning of career. And one more thing, while we were in India, we didn't have all these options to have any career, very limited option. Either you could be a doctor, an engineer, or a lawyer, and maybe beyond that, not much was discussed. The commerce was like the last thing. But now the business community, the business education, MBA, technology, other careers are coming up so much that the children really flourish in that sector. They don't need to ask anyone, Daddy, what do you want me to be? It's the other way around. They will tell you what they think they can be. And that's why I think we influence it at large. But numbers are not as much in voting, but we are not also a group like a vote bank. We are divided. We have Republicans, we have Democrats. And years ago, like let's say 30 years ago, it was based on mostly economics. Like if you are in a very high bracket of earning, you watch your taxes. I don't want to pay any more taxes. I'm already paying more because obviously as your tax bracket goes up, you pay more percentage. As you are in the lower brackets, you are on the receiving end. You're not paying taxes, but you like to get many benefits. So that's the divide. And basically, the people who are at the higher echelon of economically successful, they became Republicans. People who were mostly middle class or working, they tend to become Democrats. That was the divide that time. Now, of course, there are other factors injected, like what we call right wing philosophy. Right wing is like very conservative, very old fashioned, very religious type of thing. And we can get to that in the next point, but that's another divide. Some people call themselves very, this administration is going to support them. Some people are more liberal. They think that no, we are here for everybody and all the religions are okay with them. So they are mostly on the Democratic side. And there is a section on the Democratic side which is extreme left, left wing, and their ideas are just too extreme for anyone to digest. Even economists would not probably buy some of them. On the long run, maybe, but on the short run, it's a balance sheet here to balance, and that's where that has affected negatively the image of Mr. Sanders, Bernie Sanders. He was very
Yes.
popular, yeah, but not on the scale of right and left.
But Satish, one thing I want to ask you was, last election, the Indians voted, about 80% of the Indian voters voted for Democratic Party. But this year election, people think that some of it has gone off to the Republican Party. Is it true, or is it still changing? Is it in a flux, or is it more or less settled at a certain percentage? Can you guess?
I don't have the numbers, but almost 85% people have made up their mind by now. I'm talking about general electorate. Okay, people have made up their mind a month ago, 2 months ago, 6 months ago, and that's solidified over a period of time. There is an independent, as we call them, 15%. Same thing with the Indian American community. I think what happened was Mr. Trump's visit to India, his friendship with Mr. Prime Minister Modi, that has become a big factor in the minds of a lot of people who think that he is pro-India, and so we must support him. That is a big factor that was not there last time. And now I think the other way around is this is an international world. So if you have one candidate friendly to one country, another one to friendly to another country, so naturally people who are ancestry who come from that country, they tend to favor them. That's the only new factor. But it's not, it's marginal. It's probably going to be, if you say 80% voted, it might be like 70% this time. 10% will vote for other side.
And this is the India angle, that is, he has been friendly with Modi, is a factor in this, you think, right?
Oh, definitely it's a factor because it's been promoted for last 2 years. Yeah.
And also the Hindu angle has also come up prominently. But
Yes,
since then, more recently, now the support is more for the Democratic Party. Biden is leading by several points. And that kind of a change has not taken place in the Indian community?
Marginally, I would say 5-10% maybe, because as I said, people have made up their mind. Like there are some people who are strong Trump supporters. You cannot tell them anything, even if they see what's going on, any issues with his taxes or whatnot, they are not going to change their mind. They have form. There are some people that are firm for Biden. They're not going to change it. Oh, he said this, he said that. But then look at his 40-year career in the Senate and as vice president, what he has done for India, US-India policy. That is the important question. But that's how it is. I mean, there is a percentage with very rigid supporter. They will never change. What we call in India, I'll use a Indian word, it's called the Vyakti Puja. Vyakti Puja means worship a person,
Hero
a
worship.
principle.
Yes.
Hero worship, exactly. So you worship a person, then worship the principles. And that's very much in the play in that.
Okay, this will bring us to the discussion on Kamala Harris. How much difference is she going to make to the Democratic ticket, in your view?
First of all, Kamala Harris as a candidate, let's talk about her. There were several options that Biden could have picked up from for vice president. He probably interviewed about 6 or 7 women, maybe 2 or 3 men that I don't know. And Kamala Harris had probably the best background in the sense of her skills as a prosecutor, Attorney General of California, and her way of speaking, up to date knowledge of affairs, and arguing points as a lawyer. And then she became a senator. So, Senate hearings and all that, we could see that she could really get to the bottom of the issue. And I think she was very complimentary to Biden's ticket, considering his age and his time in Congress. I think this is like relatively new blood in the ticket. And individually, she stands out very well. After her name was there on the ticket, we saw a big surge in our group. Suddenly, membership increased when Kamala Harris was admitted to the ticket, and that's the Kamala effect. And I was watching. Mostly, it was women of Indian American background. Many of them were from South, some from North, but they all said, we have a face on the ticket. Who knows? She may become president in the future. And that's good for our children to look at that and get inspired. So a sudden surge in the Indian American community came up in support of Biden Harris ticket at the time. And it's still going on. It has not gone down.
But there are two points which some Indian Americans mention. One of it is that she projects herself as a black American. She never speaks. She talks about her memories about the beach in Chennai, or about the idlis that she ate, her mother's heroism, etc., etc. But when it comes to politics, she always says, "I'm a black American." That is the identity that she has. So some Indian Americans are doubtful about that. Will she be of help to the Indian Americans, or will she be generally partial towards the underdogs, the minorities, the women, etc. Her agenda would be different. It is not contradictory to each other. So that is one concern. The second concern is that some of the views that she has expressed on India, on Kashmir, on 370, on Pakistan, some of these have come to notice. And people say that she is probably, more inclined towards Pakistan and not towards India. And Biden also has been known to have said certain things from a point of view of political principles, etc. But I have always noticed during my days, I spent 10 years in the US, there is that people, when they come to power, they slightly readjust their policies, because they speak to the galleries when they are individuals. And then later, the national interests of the two countries come to play. Obama was not a great friend of India when he was a senator. In fact, he was willing to vote against the nuclear deal, for example. But then he became a great friend. So I would say it that way. But these 2 points are being mentioned by leading Indian Americans. And what would be your answer to that? Will you support that idea, or would you say this is of no consequence?
Oh no, everything is of consequence in the election. Let's address the first issue about identity. Because the question was really too long. I had to remember what you want to know. One was about identity of her. The other one was about her statements. Statements. Yeah. So the identity is like this. The terminology in the American corridor that, as I know, black does not really mean only African American. Black covers everybody, even us. We also come under brown in general category. So black does not mean exactly African American. They could be Caribbean, they could be from other countries who are dark in their complexion. So that's a little bit misnomer. And the other thing is, when you are in office or when you want to run for an office, you want to reach out to maximum people out there. She went to her alma mater, Howard University, which is a historically black university, black college. And that's where she went to school. She declared her campaign candidacy for president right there, the presidency in the primary, because she wanted to get inspiration from where she went to college, and all the African Americans there, they supported her. And you had to be able to reach out to different people. You cannot just say, oh, I am from South, so I'm only leader of the South Indians, for example, or I'm from Maharashtra, so I'm only leader of the Maharashtra people. If you are on the national stage, you have to be sensitive to the needs of all different people, all sectors, and you find out common relationship as to what common relationship you have. Some folks you may already have, some folks you learn by traveling there, some folks you're still in the planning that, oh, I want to go to Mogadishu and know what the country is about, something like that. So I think that identity issue is kind of secondary, but in some rigid minds who base their conviction, their opinions on somebody's identity, it's difficult to change that. But in America, its identity is changed because we all are like in a melting pot, as they say. You come from all over the world, and then you mix with everybody, at least uh, thought process wise, and not religion wise, especially. But you understand each other and you work for promotion of each other's cause. So that is not a big issue really at this point, because some people who have made up their mind, they will always say that, even if she become a vice president or president, they will always say that, oh, she said that. Now, about the issue of remarks in favor of Pakistan, I believe, is that what the question was? Or
Yes.
China? Who was it?
No,
Pakistan or
basically on
China?
India, Kashmir, what we have done and so on.
Kashmir,
Criticizing,
right.
so
Right.
siding with the
Okay.
Pakistani perspective.
Okay, sure. What happens is from here I am now in Washington. It's a long perspective, like many thousands of miles away. There is a little land called Kashmir. There is another little state called Pakistan. There is this huge country called India, and somehow this misnomer that they project India is a Hindu India, although we understand majority of Indians are Hindu, probably 80% if I'm not mistaken, but it has adopted the secular policy from the beginning. And so far it's in the constitution, it's been adopted by the laws. So it's not a Hindu as such, it's a secular country. Well, Pakistan has declared it as a Islamic country. But being a small one, if you have two children, one is like 20 years old and one is 5 years old, and they come crying to you, your sympathy will go to the younger one, right? You will say the child is weak, I need to support him. But the main reason is the failure of the Indian American lobby. There is not much effort on their part to go out and educate these people. I know years ago, Ambassador in 1995, I believe, who was that ambassador? He came from civil service, and he was the first one to adopt a lobbying firm. And
No,
that
my time we had several lobbying firms. We had
right, but
four,
95, that was the
two
first time.
Democratic and two Republican lobbying firm we had
Right.
hired during my time. So it has been there
Yeah,
for
but those
since
days,
Narasimha Rao's days, since when
yeah.
Mr. Siddharth Shankar Ray was the ambassador. That is the first time we hired a lobby. And there are a lot of criticism in India that this is illegal and this is bribery, etc. But later,
No, but
after the nuclear test, we had four lobbying companies working with them. And I used to meet them every week and feed them information, etc. We have not failed in that. But certainly, you cannot tell everybody everything. Like when I go to a group and say, India is the second largest Muslim country in the world, everybody says, oh, nobody told us that. Why didn't you tell us so? I cannot go to every American and say India is the second largest Muslim country in the world. So this kind of basic things do not go really well. People don't bother to find out. That is what happens. I don't think lobbying we are ineffective. And the caucuses have been doing very, very well.
yeah, but I think lobbying is a kind of practice here. It's official practice. Like you have a
Yes, it is very
lawyer's
legitimate
license,
and very
legitimate.
expensive. Very
You had to
expensive
get
too.
yes, you had to get a license to be a lobbyist. You had to declare
Right.
your finances and
No,
everything.
and also we cancel each other out. Pakistan also has the same kind of lobbying going on.
Sure.
So that happens.
Yeah. That's one reason, that lack of education on part of us. We are failed to educate them in the issues like you mentioned. Not too many people knew that India has the second largest population of Muslims in the world.
Yes.
You just said that, and not too many people know about it. They don't understand the issue of Kashmir, that it was a part of India, integral part of India, And in whatever happened in 1948 was a truce, and that line of control has kind of been temporarily established. The Article 370 was another problem, which was abrogated, and people made big deal about it here that, oh, it's part of the Constitution. How can you just abrogate a Constitution? So I had to explain to them that, look, it's not Modi. Prime Minister Modi just came one morning and said, hey, we're going to get rid of 370. No, it was deliberated in the parliament, both houses, and they voted in favor of abrogation because the abrogation was due
It was
long
a
time ago,
temporary measure anyway. Which was
temporary measure. So all these things are not passed on to the lawmakers in a proper way. That's where we failed. Then the CAA came after that. Oh, what is this discrimination? But gee, if you don't know who is coming in your country, at least there has to be a process of registering people, that who is
No,
coming, who is
and they
here.
misunderstood that the Muslim population will lose their citizenship. There's nothing much, nothing
No. These are
misleading.
exaggeration,
No, no.
misinformations. Yeah. So
Total
these are the things. So we need to gear up with true facts, educate the congressmen, senators, and other leaders, and things will change. But it's all part of lack of education. Nothing to do with Kamala Harris or Biden.
But since April this year, the
Hmm.
situation has changed dramatically in India-US relations because of the Chinese action. Because unlike earlier, now US and US and India have a common bilateral has come up. India, we were very shy about it in the past, but now we are more boldly projecting that alliance, as it were, with Australia, Japan, India, and the US. And things are moving in a direction where we are getting closer to the United States. And therefore, Pakistan is now occupying a less important position in this whole geopolitical situation. And that may also have an impact on the new administration, I presume. You agree with that?
Yeah, but historically, you know that the US has always stood against communism in general until the fall of USSR, which became Russia, and that did not pose as a superpower at that time. China is still a superpower in many sense of trade, consumer products. They sell all over the place. They are expanding their bases in different continents. They have ports, they have airports that they have leased from the lands, local small countries. So they have a lot of expansion. So US will always stand, no matter who is the president. But if China adopts the expansionism, US will stand against them to stop. And it's irrespective of whether President Trump is elected or Biden is elected.
So that is the point I was making, that there is
Yeah.
not going to be a big issue like India versus Pakistan or anything like that. Our interests are now coinciding much more. That is the point I want to make.
I think Pakistan is a small entity in that equation of geopolitics against China. Although China has made inroads in Pakistan, I think they build a highway now in Leh or wherever it is, and they want to get access to the Indian Ocean port so that their ships can come and they do international trading. All these things are happening. The world is watching. They have port in Sri Lanka.
Asia Pacific has become the theater for
That's right. Yeah.
competition. Okay, Sajith, you are an advisor to the government. What is your assessment, if you can share with us, of the Trump administration? What are the plus points and the minus points?
Well, for any administration anywhere in the world, we can say it is mixed, especially in the US. Trump administration, with performance regards to welfare and benefits for common man, Trump's actions on reducing the prices of life-saving medicines, executive order on making sure insurance companies cover pre-existing illnesses come to the forefront. Some of these come from Obama's affordable healthcare plan, which was really continued, and Trump called it as a Trump plan. And he also made it difficult due to the public demand, made it difficult for the Chinese companies to raise funds in the US stock markets. Now the Chinese companies, like even a small startup company in China, they can register and they can list in the New York Stock Exchange and they can get billions of dollars. So the Trump administration found that they are using the money because they're paying the money to their taxes to the Chinese government, and Chinese government is buying weapons and building their strategies and military might against the US. So which is a very good step Trump has boldly done. And many of the other actions Trump has done, he followed India's actions, like Prime Minister Modi has banned many apps like TikTok and WeChat. So US just blindly followed it to punish China. So that cue Trump got it from Modi. Maybe there's a good chemistry between Modi and Trump because of that.
No, but Trump took very many initiatives, like on the Paris Agreement. Then the Middle East, he has brought Israelis and Arabs together. They punished Iran for continuing the nuclear thing. So some of these things, do they resonate well with the Americans, that he has done some of these things, and as against the very many wrong things that he has done. So that's what I'm trying to figure out, whether his performance as the president is going to be a factor in the elections.
I was coming into that.
Negative or positive?
Yeah, I was coming into that points of getting out of the climate accord, and even Trump has mentioned about NATO countries, which has confused the US allies, and that Iran, is coming from the US Cuba, public.
So many.
Yeah, against punishing Cuba, Greece. Actually, it is Trump is doing as per the people. They American people want to do like that. Like actions against China, trade deal, tough stances against China, tough stances against Iran. So this is as per the public's, voters' expectations that Trump is doing that. What we read in media from within the US or any other country, maybe not exactly like a fact, but on the ground. And even Trump has done bringing two nations like Israel with the Gulf countries, at UAE and Bahrain, full diplomatic ties he started. Even Ivanka Trump's initiative that Saudi Arabia has liberalized its economy. The woman can drive their own car in Saudi Arabia. So this is Trump's initiatives, basically. He advocated for that. So he has gone to really nitty-gritty detail what Americans want on other countries and foreign policy sides. However, some of them, he is not very media friendly. He's got always criticized, which he knows about that, but he's still going ahead and doing it. And I think the 4 more year term, he may be doing more on that side, but he has done some mistakes, some misdeeds that is also affecting like immigration.
Sajith, generally it is said that American elections take place on the basis of domestic policies. Foreign policy does not become a major factor. Of course, last election, maybe the Russians helped, that may be a different matter altogether. But at the moment, we are worried about 3 situations. One is the coronavirus. The second is the economic situation. And the third is the race relations. These are going to be the major factors. Foreign policy is somewhat at the background at this point in time. So on this basis, is that the reason why Trump is not doing so well in the opinion polls?
Well, we couldn't confirm that because Trump's actions on domestic policies like immigration, he was arguing that he need the wall in between the Mexican border and tough immigration policies. Where it coming from? It is coming from the public opinion, from the people. They really want that. They really want to reduce the immigration and also public strain on the government, state government, federal government's strain on public funds, social welfare funds that is given to the immigrants who come illegally to the country. So Americans want to stop that. Why we pay taxes, and why it is going to the illegals for their benefits. And
let us talk about Indian immigration. President Trump has suspended H-1B visas, which will affect the Indian immigration substantially.
Even the tough stance on immigration, and he was advocating for legal migration like H-1B visa and all. However, this became it went to a certain extent that it is affecting the legal immigration. However, because of the friendship with India, it didn't cut down any H-1B visa programs or anything. It is continued the same number of visas.
He suspended it for a year.
No, that is recently. That is just recently because of the COVID situations, and the economy is suffering. The people are filing unemployment. So why should we need a foreign worker? That is a recent phenomenon. But he always supposed to be advocating for foreign workers for on legal migration. He's supporting that, and he even employ around 300 400 H1Bs in his own enterprises, Trump organization, which is found. Even he was his technology director. Everyone is on H1B visa, so he didn't cut the visa program. But recently, yes, because there is a huge unemployment. There are like 800,000 people filed unemployment last week. So that is the reason it stopped. But I think any government will stop foreign workers coming when this economy having a big issue. Economy is almost like locked down.
Okay, let me ask that same question to Satish, because he is working for the success of Biden as president. Question that they will ask the Democrats will be, how will you handle the immigration problem? Will you solve the problems being faced by Indian technical people in the United States? What do you think, Satish? What is your answer to that?
I think in general, the Democratic Party is very favorable to Indian workers, as I call them, who are here on H-1B visa and who want to get a green card and further become citizens. They will definitely support that. The problem is what Mr. Sajith said earlier, that the illegals come and they get the welfare benefit, which is not 100% true. You cannot get a job if you don't have social security number. If they come, they work hard, odd jobs, night jobs, labor jobs, and make their survival somehow. They are not a burden on the public system in general. Now, the public system changes from state to state. See, this is a country called United States. So each state has their own existence, their own laws too, in addition to the federal. So if you go to California, for example, you probably will find a lot of those people came from the south, which is the Mexico as in general called, and they may have a different situation. California may be providing more benefits, while you go to some other state, maybe North Carolina or something like that, or Maryland, they may not have any of those. They may not provide, because seasonal workers was a long time tradition here for agricultural purpose, harvesting. They will come from the Caribbean, they will come from other countries from South America, they harvest the crops, and then they go home. This is a long temporary worker, they call them seasonal. But the technology has opened doors to permanent and highly qualified people. So the view changed across the board about 4 or 5 years ago, that we need to promote qualification-based visa rather than. And Trump came to office, he said, no chain migration. So what happens is, if a person A comes, he's not encouraged to bring any of his family members with him, which was one of the incentives that people came. Now, of course, I'm talking about the other side. The economics in India has improved a lot over a period of decades, and they have attractive jobs there for professionals. Plus, they can stay with their own culture, their own relatives, friends. So they are not even as anxious to come here as they used to be. It has not. On the contrary, some people who were sent back after the 2000, what they call Y2K bubble broke down. The Y2K is the computer systems were not made for the next century. Basically, that's what they thought. There's a great fear in the technology community that all the data will be wiped out. What are we going to do? So a big flood of technicians came from India to do the software changes to go to the next century. And then after the new century came, people realized it wasn't as big a danger, and they let a lot of people go back to India, and they found good jobs there. And one of the reasons is the back offices. Some companies here, they have back offices in India, where they employ hundreds and thousands of people, and they are happy there living, because the type of living they get. So the illegal. Now, the legal immigration, Mr. Trump said that no more chain migration. But then look at his relatives. I think his in-laws are here as chain migration for his wife's visa, and everybody else is coming if they marry. So that is an irrelevant point, really. But validity is like merit-based. But who wants to just come alone, like going to a moon because you're an astronaut and spend 20 years here on the moon? You won't probably want to do that. You want to be with your friends, family, communicate. So in old days, that was the attraction. Now it's more tilting. But today, as you said, they stopped the H-1B visa processing, suspended for a while. The green card backup is so long. Recently, it was upgraded from 2011 to 2015 became current date. 15 is still 5 years behind from us, right? So all those things are happening, and the whole immigration system needs to be reformed, and
So
that's
will
what
the
Democrats.
Democrats, can the people
Yes.
who are wanting to migrate, will they find the
Yeah.
Democrats more friendly in terms of immigration? Is that an attraction
Of
that you can
course.
offer?
Of course, because many of the Democrats believe in the root of this country. Their forefathers came from other country too. Some different. Someone came from mostly England, then came from Germany, came from other like Ireland or France, Italy, European countries. All they came from different countries, and they realized that they sympathize with the cause. But it is again, like Sajith said, it's economic burden balance. It's a need-based economy. If you need people, you get them in. If they're surplus, then it's kind of a slow process. Right now, I think the market is booming for their service. Exception is the COVID. Once the COVID goes away, you will see a lot of growth in everywhere, because we are almost 10 months behind in the process. So they will be, and the immigration bill, it's called immigration reform bill, that was not successful during Obama's administration. He tried many times, but the Senate was predominantly Republican and the House was Republican, and they would never approve that. Same thing happened to his bill on ACA, which is called Affordable Care Act, which the view was, this is the richest country on the earth. How come we cannot afford? How come we cannot offer all the citizens affordable health care? They have to have, like in India, you have government hospitals in every district. You have local hospitals that are operated by government. Even with the great population in India, they somehow cater to the needs of people at some or the other level. There are private hospitals, they are very expensive. So the concept of this was to provide health care for everyone, ACA, but the Senate was Republican. They tried to get rid of it like 5 times during his 8-year term.
Obamacare. Yes.
Obamacare, right? And everybody is a beneficiary now. Thousands of people are benefiting from that currently, because it has not actually been because Trump never came up with an alternative plan. See, you have to convince people that plan A goes, plan B is here. You just criticize Obama on everything.
Anyway, the last point is about race relations. You said, America is a melting pot, everybody is equal. But in recent times, the race relations has become very acute. The Floyd, killing and the things that followed. At a particularly difficult time in economy, difficult time politically, America had to face that also. So do you think after the elections, this is going to settle down, whoever is the president, or you need Democratic Party to come in order to solve it?
Is it for me?
Yes.
Okay. The answer is, my definition of leadership is, if you claim to be or become a leader of a group or certain people, your first job is to bring people together in that group, because people will be of differing opinions, different backgrounds, and the leader is a magnet. He holds them together. That's how he becomes powerful. And that's what happens. But here, the leadership we have in the White House today has not played that game. They played the divisive game, one against another. And they encourage certain people to act against another one. And then there is a reaction to every action. So that's what you're seeing, all those demonstrations. And some people are being treated very unfairly. They are being killed. They are portrayed as criminals, which is not fair. And all these things are happening because the leadership does not believe in bringing all the people. Like in India, we had this saying, right? Sarve Sukhina Bhavantu, Sarve Santu Niramaya. That principle is lost there. He's not talking about everybody. He's talking about only one sector of the population. And that's what is the real reason of the divide. But the divide will be breached after this election. If Democrats come, they will definitely breach the divide. Let's say, for example,
civil rights movement started so many years ago. And even
Yeah.
President Obama, when he left, he said, I have not been able to solve this problem. And he used to say, if I was not president, maybe I would have faced the same kind of problems that an ordinary black man feels. So it is not going to go away very soon. But hopefully, a new president will be able to manage it better. That's what we can expect.
Yeah.
Anyway, now you're
That's
going
what I
to.
was saying. Let's say, for example, Jeb Bush would have been president, for example. He would solve it differently. Governor Kasich from Ohio, he will solve it differently, right? But this particular president has his own ideas about it, who this country belongs to, and that's what he promotes, and that has caused some of the racial divide.
I'll give both of you a few minutes to make some concluding remarks because we already run out of time. So, Sajith, you first.
Adding to what Mr. Korpe was saying, the new Biden-Harris, their policy centered around mostly around criminal justice reform. Black Lives Matter movement has helped. All these protests that is made as a part of their policy. So people are looking forward for that. There should be some resolutions or policy-wise that can solve these racial issues, bring the police and district attorneys more accountable when they are, and also it goes to the court, how the court is processing the case, and whether the judges have more options instead of putting them in the prison. So those are all part of the major policies that Biden-Harris is going to take on, and plus the immigration policies. So the racial tensions that has happened is unfortunate all over the U.S. As Mr. Korpe was mentioned, the leader, and I think that Trump has failed in that to bring the whole nation together. He supported white supremacists, and at the same time, he was blaming on Antifa and other Black Lives Matter movement. But he's not providing any solution, and that has increased the divide between the communities. So that is what exactly Biden-Harris, people are expecting them to do, that to bring the nation together and how we can move forward united and to have prosperous United States.
Thank you, Sajith. Now, concluding remarks, Satish.
The ticket itself, Biden-Harris, speaks for itself. It's a racial joiner. You have a white American on one side, and you have a black lady, woman also on the other side. First time a woman might be successful in a national election. So that is a symbol of racial unity. Okay. Now, what Biden-Harris will bring was civil rights for all, harmony within various communities, and divisive stance based on religion will be ended. That way, the future generations will be safe in this country. The second thing is democracy is only functional when all elements participate productively. If some are left out, it will never achieve its full potential. The Obama-Biden administration, the reason I had to refer to Obama, because Biden spent many years, 8 years with Obama, and before that, so all his record of 40 years speaks for itself. They signed a defense treaty. Joe Biden, as a senator at that time, assured the U.S.-India nuclear peace treaty through the U.S. Senate on both sides. And of course, President Bush was very much in favor, so he pushed that too. And from Democratic side, it was Joe Biden who made it successful. In 2014, his second term, President Obama had meetings with Prime Minister Modi, and then he visited to meet with Prime Minister Manmohan Singh earlier, actually 2010. But that was about developing the trade relations and political alliances. Joe Biden was in IIT Mumbai on July 25, 2013, and he said, and he was at the stock market, Mumbai stock market, and his vision was, that time the market was, the trade relation was $500 million. He said in 20 years, it's more than $100 billion. And now it is about $143 billion trade between US and India. And the future opportunities are like manufacturing trade, because of the strained relationship between China and US. There's a big gap. People are becoming skeptical about Chinese practices. They believe they are cheating in trade. The products may not be as good. So they are looking for a new partner, which India is the ideal candidate with the big manufacturing sector potential. And that is a big opportunity for India to join hands, no matter who comes to the president. Then the military treaties with defense India, the Indian Ocean is of interest to all the big superpowers. The direct engagement with business, manufacturing sectors, automobile, sharing research in pharmaceuticals, agriculture, and the investment in the central market of the world. Then 2 billion people. We have consumer market in India, which is more than 2 billion people. And that provides opportunities for the US to export consumer goods there and in return have Indian-made goods market in the whole world. Trump's view for development is not for all citizens. He told his supporters to stand by in case of he loses the election. That was part of the debate. And his supporters were taking up arms actually. They entered the Michigan state capitol with big rifles and guns because the laws allowed them. So incite people for violence is not a good action on the part of leader. So that will go away. And then finally, the platform, the whole democratic platform is aligned more with Indian traditional principles. For example, environment. Mr. Trump canceled the Kyoto Treaty. That was for the green world. The Kyoto Japan Treaty, he unilaterally pulled out of
Paris
it.
Agreement.
Paris Agreement.
Kyoto is older.
Right.
Kyoto is older.
Yeah. He reduced the stakes in NATO. He reduced the stakes in United Nations. He refused to pay as much money as was agreed, whatever his reasons. And that way he kind of isolated the United States from other countries. I don't think it was necessary, but that is strategy, which I don't know, maybe is successful, but not yet. And that's not going to happen. They will reach out to all the countries, get them involved. And then again, the environmental issue is ingrained in our culture. We respect trees, mountains, rivers. We consider them as important part of our daily life. And that is missing because of the global warming idea came from environmentalists. It was constantly rejected by Mr. Trump all the time, saying it's a hoax, it's a hoax. But now in California, Oregon, the western states, he got fires for the last 2 months, 3 months, continuously burning forest fire. People are fleeing because of the air pollution caused by the fires. So the COVID is hitting them from one side and the fires are hitting them from another side. The lack of attention to the COVID at the initial stage also is a big folly on his part. He failed there. I hope he changes the policy and keeps us safe. And that's why I'm looking forward to a new administration, Biden-Harris, who will really support all the people and make this country grow and bring it back to the status of number one in the world.
Thank you, Satish. That sounded like a campaign speech. But I can understand that. You're a very good spokesman of the Democratic Party anyway. Only one correction I'd like to make among the list of things that you enumerated between India and the US. They have been saying some odd things, but they are not yet reconciled to any kind of expansion of the Security Council, which is the truth. And Americans are not to be blamed for it. It is not India specific, but there is a general reluctance on the part of the membership of the UN to give more veto to more countries, and that is not going to work out. So it is not
China maybe? China was against it?
No, China is always against it. But what I'm saying is US has not been also favorable to it. The permanent members generally are not in favor of sharing their power with the others. And the other point I noticed was that the policy towards India is basically bipartisan. In fact, there are no big issues between India and the US. After the nuclear deal was out of the way, and if the trade is also out of the way, then there are no big issues on which the US will go against us. And the unifying factor will be China. So therefore, whoever comes to power, generally, there won't be much of a difference between India and the United States. But what is going to matter is what is going to happen to the United States. And that is the factor. Whether you want a predictable president or you want somebody who is, rash and irrational sometimes. And that is a choice, I suppose, the people of the United States have to make. And I'm sure they will take the right choice. Thank you very much, Satish. Thank you very much for spending so much time with us. It has been a great pleasure. Thank you.
Thank you.